I think our government needs a lead civilian agency to coordinate our civilian cybersecurity efforts. And that agency should, of course, be the Department of Homeland Security. I want to emphasize that our bill represents expertise and hard work, as both of you have said, of 3 Senate committees, and that's as it should be. We have eagerly sought, as you mentioned, Senator Lieberman, and have received constructive criticism and input from a whole lot of places. I can remember giving a speech, I think 2 years ago, to a business group presenting ideas that Olympia Snow and I had for this. And they were just surprised to hear that somebody was willing to listen to them, to listen to their complaints, and there were a lot of them. Even when people refuse to engage with us, and there have been that, even within the Senate, to refuse to discuss with our staffs, to have discussions. That doesn't mean that we don't take some of their suggestions, and we have done that. Because if they don't want to engage, that's okay. If they've got good suggestions, then put them in and make it a stronger bill. Beyond this bill's principal authors, Senators Lieberman, Collins, Feinstein, and myself, the bill reflects the input, assistance, or requests of senators on both sides of the aisle, as it should be, and which gives me hope for final passage. Senator Snowe is my co-author of the bill that Commerce reported out last year, as you know. Senator Carper was a co-author of the Lieberman-Collins bill. Both have left major imprints on this bill. Senator Hutchinson and her staff worked with us for a good part of the past 2 years. She's my ranking member and absolutely superb. I call her co-chair too, incidentally. And we have tried hard to address all of her specific concerns, and I think that we have, in fact, met most of her concerns. We've sought to engage Senator Chambliss and before him Senator Bond in the same fashion. There was some reluctance at some points to discuss, have staff discussions. It didn't make any difference. We were interested in what they had, and if there was something good in what they had, we put it in the bill. We wanted it in the bill, and then it had to pass future tests as we, combined all the efforts. Senator Kyle and Senator Whitehouse contributed an entire title regarding cybersecurity awareness. Senators Kerry, Lugar, Gillibrand, Hatch did the same on the title regarding diplomacy. Because of Senator McCain's concerns, we omitted significant language pertaining to the White House Cyber Office. When colleagues had ongoing questions about a provision that I personally believed in extremely important, I agreed to drop it from the base bill. This provision that I'm talking about would clarify private sector companies' existing requirements regarding what material risks, quote, pertaining to cyber have to be disclosed to investors in SEC filings. Because as you know, at one point, out of frustration, I went to the SEC and Mary Shapiro agreed to, if you're hacked into as a company, it goes on the website of that company at SEC, and that's had a substantial impact, actually. I believe this provision is absolutely crucial for the market to help solve our cyber vulnerabilities, and we'll fight for an amendment on the floor, and that's as it should be. That's the way the system works. But in the interest of providing more time to address colleagues' questions, I agreed to take it out of the bill that we introduced this week. Any suggestion that this exhaustive process has been anything but open and transparent is patently false. This has been a really open process and lengthy, as has been pointed out. Why have we worked so tirelessly to include the views of all sides? Why have we tried so hard to get this right? Because our country and our communities and our citizens are at grave risk. They simply are. I'm not sure if they are aware, because there are so many things that are reported in a news cycle that it almost sort of diminishes the overall aggregated weight of the danger. So our citizens have to be aware of this. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a life or death issue for the economy and for us as people. I want to be clear. The cyber threat is very, very real. This is not alarmist. Here's why. It's hard to talk about this sometimes without seeming alarmist. And yet it simply reflects the truth. Hackers supported by the governments of China and Russia, and also sophisticated criminal syndicates with potential connections to terrorist groups, are now able to crack the codes of our government agencies, including sensitive ones, and the Fortune 500. They can do that, and they do that on a regular basis. Senator Collins mentioned what what Mike Mullen said, and she pointed out that we're being looted of valuable possessions in an unfathomable scale. But that's not the end of the problem. The reason that this cyber threat is a life or death issue is the same reason that a burglar in your house is a life or death issue. If a criminal has broken into your home, how do you know what he wants to do? Is it take your belongings? Is it something more? You don't know. He's in the building, in your home. That's where we are now in terms of a country. So that's the situation we face. Cyber burglars have thrown in. Mike Mullen has said exactly what Senator Collins indicated, that the only other threat on the same level to cyber threat is Russia's stockpile of nuclear weapons. FBI Director Mueller, remember the first thing after 9/11 we had to pass, sadly, pathetically, was a law saying that the CIA and the FBI could talk to each other. I mean, how pathetic could that be? But that's where we were because of stovepipes and things of that sort. Director Mueller testified to Congress recently that the cyber threat will soon overcome terrorism as his top national security emphasis. So it's all very serious, and you can't exaggerate it, and it could happen. So then you think about how people could die. A cyber terror attack on air traffic control system, and I was talking with Secretary Napolitano just before this hearing. Often over big cities it gets very soupy. People don't like to be in soupy weather. They can't see above, they can't see below. Pilots don't like it. But they're protected because of the air traffic control system. We're going to put in a more modern one, but the same situation will prevail. Cyber hackers can take that out. They can take, of a city or of a group of cities, they can take out that capacity so that planes are literally flying in the dark, and they will fly into each other and kill a lot of people. And people have to understand that. Rail switching and networks are hacked, causing trains which carry toxic materials, deadly materials through our major cities, and there can be a massive explosion from that. So we are on the brink of very, very serious happenings. We have not reached that, which is one of our problems in getting legislation passed. But we can act now and try and prepare ourselves. Let me just close by saying that I was on the Intelligence Committee during that time leading up to 2001, and the world was rife with reports of people coming in and going out of our country, dots here and there that appeared to be connected, but we're not quite sure. And what about this Moussaoui thing? And what about that folks in that house in San Diego? And all of that was up there. What about the closing down of the bin Laden unit, or a message that never got to the bin Laden unit? I mean, all of that was there, and we knew all of that. And the national security apparatus was working very, very hard on that. But then they took it seriously, but they didn't get deep enough because it was a new phenomenon. Well, here we are in a very similar situation. It's already with us. It's much more obvious than the lead up to 2011 was. And so we now have to act. We do not have the luxury of waiting to see and develop. We have to act. At some point, the Congress has to assert itself. The federal government does have roles where this is not a heavy-handed thing, as Senator Collins has pointed out. It's not. But the federal government is involved because it is a matter of national security. And so I just wait to work with anybody and anybody to get this passed through both houses of the United States Congress.
Thanks very much, Senator Rockefeller. That was great.